I thought I was loving him, but I was just saving him. Again and again. Have you ever believed that your love could heal someone? That if you were patient enough, kind enough, loyal enough, they'd finally stop running? Stop hurting? Stop disappointing you? You told yourself, they just need someone to stay, someone to believe in them, someone to love them through their mess. But what happens when their mess becomes yours? What happens when every apology is followed by the same mistake? What happens when you realize you haven't been in a relationship? You've been in a rescue mission. This is the story of Rachel and Damien, a relationship filled with promises, almosts, and do-overs. A love that asked Rachel to carry everything until she finally dropped it all and walked away. Rachel met Damien during a summer internship. He was spontaneous, magnetic, and deeply unpredictable. He had this rawness that made people lean in like he had lived 1,000 lives already. And every story came with a scar. She was immediately drawn in. He told her early on, "I'm kind of a mess, but I'm working on it." She said, "Everyone's a mess. I don't mind." And she meant it. He had a complicated past, distant family, former addictions, a trail of broken relationships behind him. But when he looked at her, he was soft, gentle, hopeful. He said things like, "I don't know what I did to deserve you. You're the only one who makes me feel calm." Rachel took that as a calling. She showed up fully. She texted good morning every day, talked him through his low moods, forgave the missed birthdays, defended him to friends, reframed red flags as trauma responses. When he canceled last minute, she told herself he was overwhelmed. When he forgot important things, she said he's just going through it. When he lashed out and then apologized, she told herself, at least he owns it. Because he always said, sorry, always cried, always promised he'd do better. And for a while she believed those tears, believed that her love, steady, nurturing, unconditional, was healing him. But time passed, and the apologies kept coming, and the behavior kept repeating. He'd go days without texting, miss anniversaries, promise change, and then relapse into silence and distance. She started feeling like a lighthouse, always shining, always waiting, hoping he'd find his way back. But she was exhausted. One night, after comforting him through another meltdown, another emotional spiral followed by vague apologies, Rachel sat on the bathroom floor and whispered something she'd never said out loud before. "I'm not his girlfriend. I'm his lifeline." And she knew. This wasn't love. This was emotional labor dressed as devotion. She wasn't building a relationship. She was trying to save someone who didn't want to save himself. So the next time he said, "I'm sorry, I'll do better," she simply replied, "You always say that, but I'm the only one who ever changes." And then she let go, not because she stopped caring, but because she finally realized real love doesn't require you to drown to prove it. Rachel and Damien's story is for anyone who's ever confused love with rescue, who's ever stayed because someone needed them, not because they were actually being loved back. Here's the truth. You are not a rehabilitation center. You are not a fixer. You are not a therapist in disguise. You deserve a partner, not a project. You deserve someone who owns their healing, who does the work, who shows up not just with apologies, but with action. If someone breaks your heart and then cries in your arms only to do it again, that's not vulnerability. That's a pattern. And no amount of unconditional love can fix someone who refuses to hold themselves accountable. You deserve a love that gives back. A love that lifts, not one that constantly asks you to carry it. Community reactions, use you savior, but never loved. I thought I was helping him, loving him right. But really, I was teaching him that he didn't have to change, because I'd always stay. 288.7K likes love isn't supposed to feel like a full-time job. She was tired too. He said, "No one has ever believed in me like you." But he still disappeared when I needed him. I believed in him, but he never believed in us. 283.1K likes, I was the support beam. I never got to lean. I was exhausted from healing him. Every apology came with tears. And nothing ever changed. I kept mistaking regret for growth. This story helped me see the difference. 278.2K likes, I don't want love that hurts, and then explains why it did. I want to be chosen, not needed. That line, I'm not his girlfriend. I'm his lifeline. Cracked something open in me. I gave everything. He gave excuses. 272.9K likes being someone's calm doesn't mean they're good for you. From fixing to freeing. I thought I was patient. Turns out I was afraid. Afraid to admit he was never going to meet me where I was. I'm choosing myself now. 269.1K likes stop calling it love when it's just unpaid emotional labor. You can love someone with your whole heart, and it still won't be enough to make them change. Because love doesn't save people. People save themselves. And while you were busy being his lifeline, you forgot you were drowning. You are not too much. You were just too alone in something that demanded everything from you. Now it's time to love someone who lifts, not leans. And most importantly, it's time to love you. He said it was bad timing, but I was just never his priority. Have you ever had someone tell you, it's not you, it's just bad timing? And you believed it. You believed it because it felt safer than admitting the truth that they simply wouldn't choose you, no matter the year, no matter the version of you, no matter the clarity of your love. This is the story of Sophie and James, a relationship filled with emotional possibility, real connection, and consistent excuses. A story about how some people won't break your heart loudly, they'll just never fully hold it. Sophie met James at a mutual friend's art gallery launch in New York. He was magnetic, thoughtful, and listened like every word she spoke mattered. She hadn't felt that seen in a long time. They began talking slowly at first. A few messages, a coffee, a walk around the city that turned into dinner, then hours in his car, telling stories they hadn't told anyone in years. They weren't in a rush, but they weren't stagnant either. It felt like something building, something real. James told her, "You're like a quiet place I didn't know I needed." Sophie let herself believe this time could be different. But every time the relationship started to deepen, James stepped back gently without confrontation, but clearly. When Sophie said, "I'd love to see you this weekend," he said, "I've got a lot going on, but let's talk." When she asked where things were going, he said, "I don't want to mess this up by rushing it." When she told him she was falling for him, he said, "I care about you deeply, but right now, I'm not sure I can give you what you deserve." That phrase stuck with her, "what you deserve." It sounded noble, respectful, even loving, but it wasn't a yes. It was a poetic no. Still, Sophie waited. She didn't beg. She just stayed open, stayed loyal, stayed available emotionally, physically, spiritually. She told herself he just needed time. That timing was everything. That when things calmed down at work, when he was less overwhelmed, when he figured out what he wanted, he'd come back ready. But weeks passed, months, seasons shifted, and James stayed the same, present in her life, absent in her future, always there for now, never for what's next. One night, they were sitting on her couch eating takeout in silence. Sophie turned to him and asked, If I stopped being patient, if I asked you to really show up, what would you do? He looked away, swallowed hard, and finally said, I'd probably pull away. Because I can't be who you need me to be right now. Right now. That phrase. Again. Sophie didn't get angry. She just smiled, not out of joy, but because she finally saw it. It wasn't about timing. It never was. It was about willingness. He liked the idea of her, but not the responsibility of her. He loved the version of her that was understanding, flexible, emotionally generous. But he didn't love her enough to choose her fully. She stood up quietly and said, It's okay if I'm not your priority. But I won't stay where I'm not even a decision. Sophie and James's story is about the kind of heartbreak that comes not from betrayal, but from being perpetually postponed. From being in someone's, maybe, forever. Here's what we don't say enough. Timing is rarely the problem. Commitment is. If someone wants to be with you, really be with you, they will rearrange their timing. They will lean in, not pull away. They won't keep you in their orbit without offering you gravity. It's easy to stay in relationships like this because the connection feels real. And maybe it is. But connection without commitment is like lighting a fire with no intention of keeping it alive. Eventually the warmth fades and all you're left with is the smoke of what could have been. You deserve more than that. You deserve to be a choice, not a maybe. Not a someday, not an almost. Community reactions. You postponed until empty. I waited a year for him to be ready. He kept saying, not yet, until I realized he was never going to say yes. He just didn't want to be the one to walk away. 292. 4K likes. If they're not choosing you clearly, they're already letting you go quietly. You timing is not love. That line. It's not timing, its willingness is everything. I thought he loved me, but was just overwhelmed. No, he liked my presence. He never wanted to build anything real. 287.2K likes. Don't let someone keep you as a placeholder for their own confusion. You always on hold. He told me he just needed to figure himself out. I waited. For 2 years. I should have realized I was never the destination. Just a resting place. 283.6K likes. I wasn't asking for too much. I was asking for clarity. I was the patience he didn't deserve. I gave him all the grace I never gave myself. He said I deserved more, but never tried to become it. 279.7K likes. Stop accepting admiration in place of effort. You, chosen fully or not at all. He said he loved my heart, but he never let me inside his. I'm done being loved, halfway. 275. 8K likes. The only timing that matters is the moment someone decides they want to stay and means it. You deserve more than potential. More than patience with no payoff. More than someone who keeps you in limbo while they figure it out. You deserve someone who doesn't just say you're enough but chooses you like you are. Right now. Not later. Not maybe. Not when they're less busy, or more healed, or less scared. Now. And if they can't walk away, you are not a backup plan. You are the whole damn future. I let go not because he hurt me, but because I was always loving alone. Not all goodbyes come from betrayal. Not all heartbreak comes from being wronged. Sometimes the hardest relationships to walk away from are the ones where no one raised their voice, no one lied, no one cheated, but still you were slowly withering. Because you were always giving, always hoping, always trying, and they were always just there. This is the story of Eliza and Theo, a relationship filled with comfort, warmth, and quiet emotional distance. A love that made Eliza feel like she should be grateful until she realized being appreciated isn't the same as being loved. Eliza met Theo in a poetry workshop on a rainy Thursday. He was quiet, thoughtful, a little awkward in the way that made you want to lean in. He wrote like someone who felt deeply, and she wanted to know all his pages. They started talking after class. She told him about her dreams of publishing. He told her about his fear of being seen. They fell into something soft. Theo was kind. He never ignored her, never dismissed her feelings. He laughed at her jokes, helped carry her books, showed up when she needed him. And for a while that felt like enough. But it wasn't. Not really. Because Eliza craved more. Not more things. Not more drama. Just more presence. She wanted depth, emotional intimacy, shared growth, mutual vulnerability. But Theo lived in the shallow end of feeling not because he was cruel, but because he was afraid. When she cried, he'd rub her back, but wouldn't ask why. When she asked him about his past, he'd change the subject. When she told him she loved him, he'd smile and whisper, "That's nice to hear." She told herself he was just guarded, that he needed more time, that maybe love was supposed to feel safe and simple, not expansive or wild. But deep down, she knew. She was loving for both of them. She planned the future. She initiated the hard conversations. She forgave the emotional gaps without even calling them what they were. And the most painful part, Theo never hurt her. He just never held her. One evening, sitting across from him in their favorite cafe, she finally said, "Do you feel close to me?" He hesitated, then answered, "I feel calm with you." Calm. That word echoed in her mind, because she wasn't looking for chaos, but she also wasn't looking to be a blanket, a habit, a soft space he liked but never explored. She wanted to be felt, to be known, to be chosen out loud, to be part of a relationship where both people are loving with both hands, not just one. And that night, she knew. He wouldn't leave, but he would never reach for her either. So she stood up, kissed his forehead gently, and said, "You never hurt me, but I'm still walking away." He looked confused, but not devastated, and that told her everything. Eliza and Theo's story is for anyone who's had to leave a love that didn't break them, but slowly, quietly diminished them. We're taught that relationships only end when something goes wrong. But sometimes they end because the connection stopped growing, even if the kindness stayed. Love isn't just about who shows up. It's about how they show up. Are they curious? Do they ask how your soul is doing? Do they hold your grief, not just your joy? Do they meet you in your depths, not just sit beside you in comfort? If you're the only one asking, reaching, tending, it's not a relationship. It's emotional loneliness wrapped in politeness. And walking away doesn't make you ungrateful. It makes you brave. Because it takes more courage to leave someone who is fine than someone who is cruel. But fine is not love. And your heart was not made to live in almost. Community reactions. You, Chu, calm, but never held. He was gentle, consistent, never mean. But I was dying inside. No one understood why I left. But this story put it into words. 312.9K likes. I didn't want more attention. I wanted presence. You are left without pain but still broken. She didn't cheat, didn't lie, but I was invisible. I kept waiting for her to see me. She never did. 308.2K likes. Not being seen is its own kind of heartbreak. I want more than quiet. He said he loved how peaceful I made his life. But he never asked who I was. I was a background character in the life I helped him build. 301.5K likes. Being admired isn't the same as being loved. She deserved emotional depth. That line, "You never hurt me, but I'm still walking away, was my goodbye too. People thought I was crazy, but I left to save myself. 297.7K. Likes I want a love that knows how to swim deep, not just float beside me. You, farewell to almost. This was the softest heartbreak. No screaming, no blame, just the quiet ache of being unseen for too long. I walked away. I didn't regret it. 292.1K likes. Sometimes you leave, not because they broke you, but because you were doing all the loving alone. This story is the closing chapter of a series about love loss, self-worth, and the many ways we break, heal, and rebuild. If there's one thing you take away, let it be, this love is not about staying. It's about showing up emotionally, fully, consistently. You deserve more than polite affection, more than calm, more than someone who says they care, but never asks how you really are. You deserve a love that sees you. A love that doesn't just stay, but chooses you. Every day. In depth. With eyes open and heart forward. That is the love you wait for. And more importantly, that is the love you give to yourself first.